Hello. Hello, Raunak. See the book. Page number 26. Footprints without feet. There is a beautiful story. There is a beautiful story about a scientist. He discovered the art of disappearing and he wanted to misuse his talent. He took one room in a city and he was doing theft work. He was doing beating work. He was disturbing his landlord, landlady, and he was not caught. Two boys are running behind him to catch him, but he was disappeared. This story gives a message that we should not cheat anyone. We should not misuse our talent. There are two characters, main characters, major characters, a scientist Griffin and Mrs. Hall, landlord's wife. Some minor characters are there, two boys, Mr. Jeffers, a constable, policeman. So four characters are there in this story. See, can a man become invisible? Yes, this is the story of a scientist. See page 26, footprints without feet. This is the story of a scientist who discovers how to make himself invisible. Invisible means unseen. Does, does it use or misuse his discovery? Does he use? He is misusing his discovery. He is cheating the people doing theft work. Some questions are there. How did the invisible man first become visible? He becomes visible by his talent. He was a scientist. He knew how to become visible and invisible. Why was he wandering the streets? He was homeless. He left his room and he was moving on the road in the streets. The two boys started in surprise. Two boys were running behind him to catch him. Two boys started in surprise at the fresh muddy imprints of a pair of bare feet. Bare means naked. Fresh means not stale. Muddy means full of mud. Imprints means stamp. The two boys, they were running behind a man and they were not looking any man. There was only the footprints. What was a barefooted man doing on the steps of a house in the middle of the London? This is a question. That man has naked foot, no shoes, no slipper. What was he doing? Okay, see the book. Admit. Okay. Listen. Page number 26. Page number 26. Footprints without feet. Lesson 5. The name of the book is also Footprints Without Feet. The name of the lesson is same. See, the two boys are searching, running behind a man to catch him. The two boys started in surprise at the fresh muddy imprints of a pair of bare feet. Bare feet means naked feet. There was a scientist. He knew the art of despairing himself. He ran away on the road. And there was a muddy place on the mud on the way. His footprints were coming. What was a barefooted man doing in the steps of a house? Page 26. In the middle of London, and where was the man? They are asking question. Two boys, they are running behind uh, a scientist. His name was Griffin, and they were thinking, what this man is doing here? They gazed which looked with the fixed eyes. A remarkable sight made their eyes. Remarkable means notable. They saw fresh footmarks appeared from nowhere. Any man was not seen, but the fresh footmarks were there. Further footprints followed, and so many footprints were there. What figure of speech you can search in further footprints followed? F is repeated three times. Alliteration. One after another, the man was running, descending the steps and progressing down the streets. He was going on the street. The boys followed. Followed means chased, ran. Fascinated means attracted. Until the muddy impressions became fainter and fainter. Fainter means not seen. Till that time, the muddy imprints of the feet of that man was not visible and at last disappeared altogether. At last, that man was disappeared, and the two boys they were running behind the man. They were searching the scientist. The explanation of the mystery was really simple enough. Mystery is secret. Enough is sufficient. What was mystery? The bewildered boy, bewildered is confused, had been following a scientist. That scientist, his name was Griffin, who had just discovered how to make the human body transparent. He learnt one art, how to become transparent. Transparent means unseen. Griffin, the scientist, had carried out experiment after experiment to prove that the human body could become invisible. There was a scientist, his name was Griffin. He was doing so many experiments, and at last he was successful. He discovered that how he could become invisible. Uh, Finally, he solved certain rare drugs. He learned the art of becoming invisible. He solved means gulped in Hindi घोट जाना. Some rare drugs. Drugs means medicine, powerful medicine. And his body became as transparent, and now he became a transparent person. As sheet of glass, just like sheet of glass is transparent, just like that his body became transparent. Though it also remained as solid as glass, his body was solid like glass, but he was not seen. Brilliant scientist, though he was, Griffin was rather a lawless person. There was a question in the examination how he was a lawless person. Lawless is a person who does not follow the rules regulation. He was a lawless person. He was disturbing the people. He is not following the rules regulation. He was a brilliant scientist, but he was misusing his talent. His landlord disliked him, and where he took the quarter, his landlord did not like him and tried to eject him. Eject him is throw him. In revenge, Griffin set fire to the house. Griffin was a very dangerous person. He made a fire in the house. To get away without being seen, he had to remove his clothes. Thus, it was that he became homeless wanderer. First of all, he had a home, but his landlord was very angry with him. He wanted to throw him, and then he made a fire in the house, and now he was moving on the road. Lawless person. Uh, to get away without being seen, he had removed his clothes. Thus, it was that he became a homeless wanderer. Wanderer is a person who is moving here to there. He became a lawless person, a person who does not follow the rules and regulations. Without clothes, without money, and quite invisible, he was unseen. He had no clothes, no money, until he happened to step to some mud and felt footprints as he walked. And there was mud on the road, and he was walking on that. Footprints were there on the road. Page 27. He escaped easily enough from the boys who followed his footprints in London. There were two boys. They were running behind Griffin. But his adventure means courage, were by no means over. Over means finished. The adventure means courageous work. He had chosen a bad time of the year, that man, Griffin. He had selected the winter season, cold season, to wander about London without clothes. He had no clothes, and in the cold season, he was moving on the road. It was midwinter. It was the middle point of the winter season. The air was bitterly cold. The air was very much cold, and he could not do without clothes. Here, do means live. And in the cold season, that Griffin could not live without clothes. Instead of walking about the streets, he decided to slip into big London store for warmth. Warmth means hot, warmness. He was going into the London store. He will steal some clothes. Closing time arrived, and it became evening time, closing of the shop. And as soon as the doors were shut, Griffin was able to give himself the pleasure of clothing and feeding himself without regard to expense. Expense means spend. When the shop was about to close, he stole some clothes and put on the clothes. He broke open boxes and wrappers. Wrappers means covers. He was a very lawless person. He broke the boxes and fitted himself out with the warm clothes. That was a cold season, so he put on the warm clothes, pleasant hot clothes, woolen clothes, sewn with shoes and overcoat and wide brimmed hat. That boy, Griffin, he had no shoes, he had no clothes. Now he got new shoes, he got overcoat, and he got one hat also. Wide brimmed hat. It means wide brimmed means border. He became a fully dressed. First of all, he was having no dress. Now he became fully dressed and visible person. When he was having no dress, transparent, he was not seen. Now he put on the clothes. He was visible. Visible means seen. In the kitchen of the restaurant, he found cold meat and coffee. He went into a restaurant and he got some coffee and the meat, cold meat. And he followed up the meal with sweets and wine. And there were no any customers. He entered in the night and he got the wine, sweets from the grocery store. He first of all went to one shop, clothes shop, from where he got the clothes. Now he went into a restaurant. There he got the food, wine, and then he went to Kirana store. Finally, he settled down to sleep on the pile of quilts. And he had a one room on the top. He was going to sleep on the quilts. Quilts means in Hindi katha. Pile means collection. If only Griffin had managed to wake up in good time, all might have been well. He has selected the cold weather. If he could select the summer season, he could be well also. As it was, he did not wake up until the assistants were already arriving next morning. In the shop, he slept early in the morning. The assistants, the shopkeepers, the owner of the shopkeeper, his assistants started to come. When he saw a couple of them, couple means two, he saw two staff members of the shop, page 28, approaching means coming near. He panicked means got afraid, and began to run. Now he was running, and the two boys were running behind him. They naturally gave chase, and those two boys, they were chasing him. Chasing means running behind him. In the end, he was able to escape. Escape means run away. Only by quickly taking off his newly found clothes. He had stolen the clothes, he put on the clothes, and he was going. So once more he found himself invisible but naked in the chill January air. It was the January month, and he was naked in that month. He was invisible. This time he decided to try the stock of the theatrical company in the hope of finding not only clothes but also something that would hide the empty space above his shoulders. And now he selected one company, theoretical company. The people who are playing the drama, they have so many types of dresses. He entered into that company and shivering with cold, it was so much cold, he was shaking with the cold. He hurried to Drury Lane. Lane is a street. Hurried means doing fast. The center of the theatre world. And there in London, what was the theatre world, center of the theatre world, there he entered. He soon found a suitable shop. He was searching shop for the clothes. He made his way invisible up the stair and came out a little later wearing bandages around his forehead. He went into the upstairs. He put the bandage on his forehead. He was not wounded, not injured, but he has got the clothes. Dark glasses, dark means black. Glasses means spectacles. He put on the spectacles. False nose. He went into a theatrical shop, so he got their nose. False nose. Big bushy side whiskers. Whiskers means mooch. He got big whiskers, looking like bush. Bush means jhadi in Hindi. And a large hat, and he put on a big hat. To escape without being seen, he callously means cruelly, attacked the shopkeeper from him. After which he robbed him of all the money he could find. There was a shop, to the shopkeeper he attacked, and after that he took the money by force also. Why does Mrs. Hall find the scientist eccentric? He took one quarter in the house of Mrs. Hall. He took some quarters in the house of Mrs. Hall. So how does Mrs. Hall find the scientist eccentric? Because he was having a strange appearance. Bandage he had on his face, he was not seen. What curious episode occurs in the study? Study means study room. In the study room, the noises were coming, and nobody was seen in the study room. But this man, invisible man, he has gone there. What other extraordinary things happen at the inn? In the inn, what happened? The chair were flying in the air. Nobody was seen in the inn. Inn is a place where the people are living. In Hindi, Sarai. Eager to get away from crowded London, he took a train to the village of Iping. It may be asked in the examination in which village he was going, where he booked two rooms at the local inn. There was one local hotel, local residence. He booked means rented two rooms for him. The arrival of a stranger at an inn in the winter was in any case an unusual event. In the winter season, nobody is going in the hotel, but he has gone. A stranger of such uncommon experience set all tongues wagging. This is a phrase. Set all tongues wagging means talking. All the people were talking about him. Mrs. Hall, the landlord's wife, made every effort to be friendly. And the landlord's wife, Mrs. Hall, she wanted to become friendly with that person. But Griffin had no desire to talk. Griffin was invisible man. He was not talking. And told her, my reason for coming to Iping is a desire for solitude. Solitude means loneliness. He told Mrs. Hill that he wanted loneliness. There was no any purpose. I do not wish to be disturbed in my work. And he said to Mrs. Hall was the mistress of the house, that he did not want to be disturbed. Besides, an accident has affected my face. He was telling a lie. Nothing has affected his face. He had done the bandages. He said that in the accident his face was damaged. Satisfied that her guest was an eccentric scientist, that Mrs. Lady, she was satisfied that this is a very mad type of, very stranger type of scientist. And in view of the fact that he had paid her in advance, that man was not rich, but he had paid the money in advance. She was very happy because Mrs. Hall got the money. Mrs. Hall got the advance rent. Mrs. Hall was prepared to excuse his strange habit. Excuse means क्षमा करना, forgive. And irritable temper. Irritable means person who becomes angry very fast. But the stolen money did not last long. He had stolen the money, but that type of money could not continue for a long time. And presently, Griffin had to admit that he had no more ready cash. What cash he had spent. He gave to Mrs. Landlord, Mrs. Hall, and he spent on himself. He pretended he told a lie. However, that he was expecting a check to arrive at any moment, he was telling a lie that a check was to come to him. Shortly afterward, a curious episode occurred. Shortly means at once. Afterwards means after that, curious means interesting. Episode means event. Occurred means took place. Very early in the morning, a clergyman and his wife were awakened. Awakened means got up by noises in the study. In the study room, there was a sound, and a clergyman means priest and his wife, they were thinking that they were listening that what type of sound was coming. Creeping down a stair, they heard the chink of money. Chink of money means notes being taken from the clergyman's desk. And the shopkeeper, the clergyman is priest, from his desk the money was stolen. Without making any noise and with a poker means interferer, grasp firmly in his hand, the clergyman flung open the door. Flung means thrown. Surrender. This man was stealing. Who? Griffin. Page 29. Lesson 5. Then, to his amazement with surprise, he realized that the room appeared to be empty. That room was empty. Nobody was there. He and his wife looked under the desk and behind the curtain is parda, and even up the chimney. Chimney is a place where from the smoke is coming. There was not a sign of anybody. Nobody was looking there. Yet the desk had been opened and the housekeeping money was missing. All the money was missing and the desk was opened. Who was that thief? Griffin, scientist. Extraordinary affair. Affair means event. Extraordinary means wonderful. The clergyman kept saying for the rest of the day. Whole day he was saying to other people that wonderful thing has happened. But it was not as extraordinary as the behavior of Mrs. Hall's furniture. A little later that morning, and in the same day, in the morning, the landlord's wife, Mrs. Hall, she was disturbed. The landlord and his wife were up very early. They got up early in the morning and were surprised to see the scientist door wide open. They saw that the door of the scientist was open. Usually it was shut and locked. Generally, the room of Mr. Griffin was locked all the time. And he was furious. Furious means angry. If anyone entered his room and he was angry, who? The owner, Mr. Hall. He was thinking that who had entered into his room. This he word is used for Mr. Hall, house owner. The opportunity seemed too good to be missed. This was a good opportunity and he did not want to miss it. They peeped around the door. They means Mr. Hall and Mrs. Hall. Peeped means looked, saw nobody and decided to investigate. They saw that in the room nobody was there. Investigate means watch, find out. The bedclothes were cold, showing that the scientist must have been up for some time. And stranger still, the clothes and bandages that he always wore were lying about the room. And what were the clothes of that scientist? They were lying in the room, and scientist was not there. All of a sudden is suddenly, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff. Sniff is smell close to her ear. She was smelling the smell. A moment later, means after, the height on the bedpost lifted up and dashed itself under her face, into her face. She saw that one height was coming near her face. Then the bedroom chair became alive. This is personification. The chairs were jumping. That Griffin was invisible and he was disturbing the chairs. See, springing into the air. Springing means jumping. Here, spring means jump. It charged. Charge means attacked. It attacked straight at her. Straight means directly. Legs foremost. As she and her husband turned away in the terror, terror means fear. The extraordinary chair pushed down them both out of the room and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. The door was locked. Mrs. Hall almost fell down. The stairs in the hysteric. In hysteric means in emotion. She was convinced that the room was haunted by spirit. Spirit means ghost. In the room, nobody was seen, but movement was there. She was thinking that a ghost had entered and that the stranger had somehow caused this to enter into her furniture. She was thinking that any ghost was in her furniture. Furniture means bed, chair. My poor mother used to sit in that chair, she moaned. Moaned means cried. To think it should rise up against me now. And she was thinking why the chair was jumping in the air, why the chair was attacking on Mrs. Hall. The feeling among night hours was that the trouble was caused by witchcraft. Witchcraft means magic. They were thinking, Mrs. Hall and Mr. Hall, that any magic has happened, any ghost has entered. But witchcraft or not, when news of the burglary at the clergyman's home became known, the strange scientist was strongly suspected means doubted, of having had a hand in it. It was a doubt that he had done it. Suspicion grew even stronger. Suspicion means doubt. When he suddenly produced some ready cash, he produced some money. Though he had admitted not long before that he had no money, that scientist Griffin, he had no money and now he was producing the money. It means he had stolen the money. The village constable was means policeman. Jeffers is the name. Was strict secretly sent for. Sent for means called. Where he was called secretly and he will send two boys to catch this thief. Instead of waiting for the constable, Mrs. Hall went to the scientist who had somehow mysteriously appeared from his empty bedroom. And she saw that scientist. He was appeared. That man has art of disappearing himself. Sometimes he was appeared, sometimes he was disappeared. I want to know what have been doing, what you have been doing to my chair of stairs. She is asking a question. She demanded. Demanded means asked. Who? Mrs. Hall. Mrs. Hall was asking a question. Were you doing there in my room? And I want to know how it is you came out of an empty room and how you entered a locked room. Her second question. The room is locked. How did you enter? And how you came here? Page 30. The scientist was always quick tempered. He was very irritable person. He was angry very fast. Now he became furious. Furious means angry. That scientist Griffin, he was very much angry. You don't understand who or what I am. He shouted, very well, I will show you. He was threatening now. Suddenly he threw off bandage, whisker, spectacles, and even nose. It took him only a minute to do this. In 1 minute, he threw his bandage, whisker, spectacles. The horrified people were afraid. Horrified means afraid. In the bar, found themselves staring at a headless man. They saw that there was a man, his head was not there. Who was that man? Griffin. Mr. Jeffers, the constable, now arrived and was quite surprised to find that he had to arrest a man without a head. His head was not there. Now constable came. Mr. Jeffers, he was thinking that how he could arrest a man who had no head. But Jeffers was not easily prevented from doing his duty. If a magistrate's warrant ordered a person arrest, then that person had to be arrested, with or without his head. Okay, he had no head, but without his head also he should be arrested. There followed a remarkable scene. Remarkable means notable. Scene means scenery view. And the policeman tried to get hold of a man who was becoming more and more invisible as he threw off one garment after another. And now he was throwing the clothes. Finally, a shirt flew into there. He was becoming invisible. Till that time, he was having the clothes, he was visible. And the constable found himself struggling with someone he could not see at all. And the constable was searching a person who was unseen. Some people tried to help him. Some other people, they were trying to help that Jeffers, but found themselves hit by blows that seemed to come from nowhere. Somebody was beating in the air, nowhere. In the end, Jeffers was knocked. Jeffers was knocked unconscious. Knocked means defeated. Knocked means made fall down. There was a struggle between Jeffers and the scientist. Scientist was unseen. He was beating the Jeffers. As he made at last attempt to hold on to the unseen scientist, scientist was not seen. There were nervous, excited cries of hold him. And now the policeman was saying, hold him. Hold him is catch him. But this was easier said than done, but it was very difficult to catch. Griffin had shaken himself free, and no one knew where to lay hands on him. And he was free, he was invisible, nobody could catch him. This is the story of a scientist who was very clever. He changed his appearance, he was becoming invisible, and he was cheating the people, he was attacking other people. Some questions are there. Page 31. Griffin was rather a lawless person. Comment. I am commenting. Griffin never thought about the safety of others. He harmed the people by beating them, by robbing them. He was living in one room. There, first of all, he get the advance payment. After that, he was not giving payment. How would you assess Griffin as a scientist? He discovered how to make himself invisible. He enjoyed the feeling of power of this invisibility. He was enjoying. Uh, would you like? Would you like to become invisible? Yes. What advantage and disadvantage do you foresee? Foresee means see before. If you did, advantage that nobody can see, nobody can catch. Disadvantage that invisible man have no friends. Invisible man will look like mad. Are there forces around us? They are invisible. Yes, many things are invisible. Light is invisible. Love is invisible. Uh, Air is invisible. Feelings are invisible. So, are there forces around us? They are invisible. For example, magnetism. Yes, magnetism. Chumbakatva. Feelings, love. God is invisible. God is running all over the world, and God is not seen. Are there aspects of matter that are invisible or not visible to the naked eye? Yes. Many things are not visible. Air, atoms, these things are not visible. And many things are invisible. They are energy, sound, ideas. So, what would be the world be like if you could we see such forces as are such aspects of matter? The world will be put up full of problems. When all things will be invisible, then from the invisible sources we can be disturbed. What makes glass of water transparent? Uh, Light. Light makes the glass of water transparent. Yes. What is the scientific explanation for this? Do you think it would be scientifically possible for a man to become invisible? I think no. I think a person cannot become invisible. So these are the stories. These are the questions. After that, there is a very good story. Lesson 6, the making of a scientist. In this story, some qualities of a scientist are mentioned. What is the first quality of a scientist? A scientist should have first-rate mind. Second quality of a scientist should have curiosity, eagerness to know new things. And third quality of a scientist should have a right reason. He should have winning attitude. You see, page number 32. There is a story. Name of the story is Making of a Scientist. Richard Everett has received the Sarle Scholar Award and the Sharing Plough Award for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. There is a man, Richard Everett. He has got the awards. It was a function of butterflies. He has done the very good inventions on the kinds of butterflies, the diseases of butterflies, had opened the world of science to him. And this is a new world of science. See, uh, theme of this lesson 6 is qualities of a scientist. Message is we should be competitive and willing to win. Type of story, scientific story. Characters are three. Richard H. Everett, a curious child. Richie is Richard H. Everett, and one Richard's mother. These are the qualities. These are the characters. How did a book become a turning point in Richard Everett's life? One book, The Travels of Monarch 10, opened a new world of science to Richard. Books can change you. Books have power. How did his mother help him? Mother was giving money to buy the books. Mother was making scientific equipment. Mother was helping him financially. At the age of 22, a farmer scouts of the year excited the scientific world with a new theory on how cells work. There was a boy, Richard H. Bright. He was in class 9 or 10, and he started to know what is the butterfly. And his college room mate explained the theory in an article in the Proceedings of the Natural Academy of Science. In an article also, article means magazine, he has written something. It was the first time this important scientific journal had ever published the work of college students. He was a college student in that magazine, never was printed by any student in sports. That would be like making the big leagues. It is a phrase, making the big leagues. Making the big leagues at the age of 15 and hitting a home run your first time at bat. For Richard Sebright, it was the first in a long string of achievements in science and other fields, and it all started with butterfly. There was a boy, Richard. He started to do the research on butterflies. Only child, Sebright grew up north of Reading. Here, Reading is the name of the place, or is capital. Peninsula, Mania. This is the name of one country. There was not much I could do there. He could not do anything. He said, I certainly could not play football or baseball with a team of one. But there was one thing I could do, collect things. See the quality of the scientist. He was collecting the things. He collected many butterflies. So he did and did he? Wow. Beginning in kindergarten. Kindergarten is the first class for any student. Kinder means child, garden means garden. Evrite collected butterflies with the same determination that has marked all his activities. He also collected rocks, fossils, and coins that scientist Evrite, he had collected many things. He became an eager astronomer. He was very much eager. Eager means curious.